Let's give a big hand to our friend and leader, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi.
That was good. Thank you very much, Tim Paulson. Thank you for the great leadership you provide for the San Francisco Central Labor Council. Any labor people in the house? And Aaron, thank you for framing this in a way that takes us to our values. The mayor did, talking about old promises, but old promises are about deeply held values and commitments that we have, and no one talked about it better 50 years ago than Reverend Martin Luther King, and this morning our mayor, so much so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership as well in San Francisco. And I join you in acknowledging Willie Brown, if he's still there. He is. He's still here, Willie Brown. It's such an honor to be here with members of the official family of San Francisco Bay Area. I want to acknowledge of my own family, my daughter Christine, my friend Leroy King, and my friend Rita Semmel. We're like family to each other, so I wanted to acknowledge them for their leadership. So here we are, 50 years from Selma, 50 years from the passage of the Voting Rights Act. And where are we? We're at a place where last year the Supreme Court overturned certain aspects of the Voting Rights Act. We joined with the Republicans for a bipartisan bill. They wouldn't even take that up. So it's really important for us to beat the drum outside of Congress. President Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. And we cannot allow this 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, which will occur in August, to go without passing a proper Voting Rights Act again. We cannot let them get away with that. Okay. I'm so excited by Aaron. Thank you for putting, again, this in a, shall we say, artistic perspective, because that's where we can do some of our great work, communicating with the public, and to honor Belva Davis with the Willie Kennedy Award. Wow, two great women. Congratulations, Belva Davis. Many of us here, some younger, worked with Willie Kennedy. We know how great you are. She was, and how great you are to receive this award. Belva Davis, congratulations to you and your family. So in the last election, Madam President, London Reed, isn't that great? David Chu, Anita, congratulations to those who have risen to new positions. But here's the thing. We talked about the minimum wage earlier. The first thing we did, the very first day of a new Congress in 2007, when Democrats took control of the Congress, the first thing we did that day was to pass the minimum wage. We have to do it again. We need more. But it's not just about the minimum wage, as important as that is, and congratulations, Mayor, for San Francisco leading the way. We have to have better paying jobs. We have to have a raised minimum wage, equal pay for equal work, better paying jobs. So this year, on the first day of the Congress, as I gave the gavel, you may have seen notice of that, gave the gavel to the Speaker, he was not really too happy, because in giving it to him, I said, I hope we can work together to do two things that I think are not partisan. One is to build better infrastructure in our country, throughout our country, to create good paying jobs. Very good. And to fix America. To fix America. Mike, we go together to all these groundbreakings and dedications to fix America. And that's what President Obama did in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Many of the projects that you see in San Francisco, whether it's Central Subway, whether it's Presidio Parkway, whatever it is, much of it came out of that era. But that stopped once the other party took control of the House. It never has been partisan in the past. It shouldn't be partisan now. Trillions of dollars of deficit in our infrastructure, good paying union jobs. We need to fix America. Let's invest in better infrastructure for bigger paychecks. You've heard the expression, it's the paycheck, it's the economy, stupid. It's the paycheck, genius. It's the paycheck. And that's what we have to do, build bigger paychecks. All of this is in keeping with the promise of Reverend Martin Luther King and all that he talked about: social justice, economic justice, everything, ending the war in Vietnam in terms of the cost that were involved, and opportunity cost to investing in the education of our children. And you know his beautiful words in that regard. So here's the thing what we're going to do next. On the first weekend in March, members of Congress have been invited by John Lewis, our colleague, how proud we are to serve with him, to go to Selma. I've done it before with John, but this is the 50th anniversary. So I'm bringing children, grandchildren, and the rest, because I think every child in America who goes to see Independence Hall, who goes to Boston, who goes to Washington, should go to Alabama, to Montgomery, to Birmingham, and to Selma to see that very important part of American history. It happened in the lifetimes of some people in this room, some people at this podium. Some of you are born since then. The 50s and under are born since then. But imagine that it happened that recently and it was that cruel, and that such a big difference was made. Now, Walter Reuther said, the bread box and the ballot box cannot be separated. What happens on Election Day has an impact on what is negotiated by labor unions, what happens in legislation to undo that. In this last election, only 1/3 of the electorate voted. Only 1/3. That was no mandate for the harshness that we are seeing unfolding there in the opposition to President Obama. But we have to give people a reason to register and a reason to vote. And that is why I named Mr. Clyburn, Jim Clyburn, he's the assistant leader. He fought in the civil rights movement as a young person. Still a young person. He fought in that. And he is going to lead up our 50th anniversary initiative to make sure people know that they have a reason to vote because legislation can make a difference in their lives. And Martin Luther King told us that. He said very specifically, and I will quote him, he said that no one should underestimate the power of this method. We must continue the struggle through legislation, and to do so, we must continue to gain the ballot. So we have some specific ideas about how to do all of that. We have some great people. Barbara Lee will be helping Mr. Clyburn on that. Jackie Spear is always a part of all of that. So it is our delegation representing you in this crucial year where the court had the was I going to say stupidity? The hard to understand attitude to overturn critical aspects of the Voting Rights Act. We have a proposal. It is bipartisan. They must bring it up. We cannot let this year go by. There's an immorality to it, to deprive people of vote. And when you see Selma, Mayor, and the other kids see it with you and others who have seen it, and some of you lived through it, you know how much people suffered and some died to get the right to vote. It is very, very valuable, and we have to use it. We have to use it to advance the common good for working people. There is absolutely no question. There is a middle-class squeeze in our country. The wealthiest people, and I don't paint them all with that same brush, but those of wealth want to protect their assets and special interest. And therefore, they have initiatives that squeeze the middle class. They want tax cuts and then say reduce the deficit by making cuts in education. That just doesn't make sense, because nothing, my friends from community college know this and others, nothing brings more money to the Treasury of the United States than the education of the American people. Nothing. So, we're here to bear witness. We're going to represent you, others of us from the delegation, at the 50th anniversary first weekend in March. We're going to be fighting this year. My colleagues yesterday, on Sunday, of the Congressional Black Caucus were in Ferguson to again bear witness there. So all justice in every one of its manifestations, as Dr. King. Now, I was at the march in 1963. I couldn't wait to hear Dr. King's speech but I was there to see people arrive. It was very quiet. It was interesting that it was so quiet. That's what impressed me, sound of music, but quiet. I had to leave, you know why? To go get married. So now you know I've been married 51 years. Only that would have prevented me from hearing the entire program. But in any event, 51 years later, and we don't have a proper Voting Rights Act, we don't have a proper comprehensive immigration act, we don't have a proper legislation to create good-paying jobs, to strengthen the middle class and all that aspire to it. We have work to do. There's one solution, one cure for many ailments, and that is the vote. That is the vote. If we give people a reason to register, a reason to vote, and they do, we can fight all the fights against, they want to eliminate collective bargaining, OSHA, NLRB, all of those fights. We can invest in the education of our children. We can promote not only a Voting Rights Act, but fuller voter participation. So much is at stake. Again, nobody said it better than Reverend Martin Luther King, and we'll be observing that in the rest of the day. But thank you all for coming together, because this group is just is like a oneness. It's all elements, all the threads of our community coming together, building a very strong fabric that we all go out there and use and fight for, and the rest. Thank you, Tim Paulson. Thank you, our friends in labor. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you all. Happy Martin Luther King Day.